I never thought I was capable of doing something like this. Not me. Not the woman who always paid her bills on time, who held the elevator door for strangers, who called her mother every Sunday and believed in monogamy like it was religion. But some stories, they don't start with love. Some start with silence. And mine? It started with a lie I told myself. A quiet, harmless lie. You'll be fine. You'll get used to it. It's the right decision. He was older. Much older. Rich, powerful, elegant in a way that made you feel small and safe at the same time. He gave me everything. Stability. A home I never had. Diamonds, dinners, decency. And I gave him my hand. My smile. My presence. But not my heart. Never my heart. They said I was lucky. They called it a fairy tale. A smart woman marrying a good man. But what they didn't see, what no one saw, was how empty it felt to be touched by someone who only knew your body, not your soul. I thought I could fake it forever. That love was overrated anyway. That comfort was enough. But it only took one person to burn all of that down. One glance. One breath. One voice that said my name like it had always belonged to him. He didn't smile when he met me. He didn't congratulate us. He didn't even pretend to like me. He just looked. Long enough for me to forget how to breathe. And something inside me cracked. It's hard to explain the beginning of something that never should have begun. It wasn't flirtation. It wasn't temptation. It was recognition. Like he saw something in me I didn't want anyone else to see. The hunger. The ache. The loneliness dressed in silk. And I saw it in him, too. The anger. The restraint. The wall he had spent years building. I didn't know his story. Only that he was broken in ways he never spoke about. Only that he watched me like I was the final match near his gasoline-soaked past. I told myself it was nothing. That he was just the son. Just my husband's son. That I could ignore it. But ignoring turned into glancing. Glancing turned into waiting. Waiting turned into longing. And longing became a sin with a heartbeat. I don't know the exact moment the line blurred. Maybe it was that night in the hallway when we passed each other and our hands brushed. Cold skin, electric silence. Maybe it was the way he said goodnight, like he meant don't go. Or maybe it was me. Maybe I was the one who opened the door. Who let it all in. They say you can't fall in love with someone you barely know. But that's not true. You can. You absolutely can. You can fall in love with the wrong person in all the right ways. With the sound of their footsteps. With the smell of their shirt. With the way they never touch you, but make your body burn anyway. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. Not because you want it. But because you need it. Because it's the first thing in a long time that feels real. I didn't mean to lie to my husband. I didn't mean to look for something outside the walls he built for me. But I was suffocating in a house full of crystal and silence. And he was oxygen. He was the one person who made me feel seen. Even when I hated him for it. Even when I hated myself. This isn't a confession. It's not a cry for sympathy. It's just the beginning of something I can't undo. I married a man who gave me everything. And I fell in love with his son, who gave me nothing but the truth. The ugly, brutal, beautiful truth. And now, I live with it. Every day. Not in guilt. Not in shame. But in memory. Because once you taste a forbidden love, nothing else ever satisfies again. And if you're still here, if you're still listening, then maybe you understand what it means to crave something you can't have. Maybe you've been here, too. Or maybe, you're just curious how far I went. How deep I fell. How much I lost. Don't worry. I'll tell you everything. Every glance. Every lie. Every night I shouldn't have stayed. Just know this. The worst thing I ever did wasn't falling for him. It was pretending that I hadn't. He was late to the wedding. That's how I remember him. Everyone else had been seated, champagne in hand, strings playing softly in the garden. But him? He arrived after the vows. No apology. No excuse. He walked in like he didn't care that he was interrupting the illusion of happiness. Or maybe, like he didn't believe in it at all. He stood at the back, hands in his pockets. No smile. No toast. Just eyes, sharp, unreadable, fixed on me like I was something dangerous. Or maybe something already ruined. My new husband called him Ethan. His son from a past marriage. A complicated relationship, he said. Distant. Cold. But he was here now, wasn't he? That was supposed to mean something. But Ethan didn't say much to me that day. Just a nod. A handshake that lingered half a second too long. And a look, God, that look, that made my spine tighten. I wore white. I wore pearls. I smiled like I meant it. But when I caught him watching me from the edge of the reception, cigarette between his lips, no drink in hand, I felt something I wasn't supposed to feel. Seen. Exposed. And worse, alive. The first time we were alone, it wasn't planned. A week into the marriage, my husband left for a business trip. I stayed behind. Jet-lagged, restless, alone in a mansion that echoed with every step. And then he came back. Ethan. Unexpected. No warning. I heard the door slam. Heavy boots on marble. A voice muttering something I couldn't make out. I came downstairs barefoot, wearing only a silk robe. I didn't expect company. He didn't expect me either. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, "You're not who I thought he'd marry." I laughed. I don't know why. It wasn't funny. Maybe I just didn't know what else to do with the tension thickening in the air. "And who did you think he'd marry?" I asked, tugging the robe tighter. He looked at me. Up and down. Slow. Careful. Like he was cataloging everything he shouldn't be seeing. Someone older. Colder. Less open. That word hung in the air. Open. I could have ended it there. Changed the subject. Walked away. But I didn't. Instead, I poured him a drink. We sat in silence. The kind that makes your skin itch. That dares you to speak first. I asked about his life. His job. He gave short answers. Avoided eye contact. But when he finally looked at me, something shifted. "You like it here?" he asked. I paused. Yes, I lied. He smirked, like he could smell it. "You lie pretty," he said. I should have walked away. Instead, I asked him if he wanted another drink. He said no. But he didn't leave. That night, I lay awake, heart pounding. I could still feel the weight of his stare on my skin. Like he hadn't touched me, but somehow, he had. I tried to forget it. Tried to be the perfect wife. But something had already cracked open. And once something cracks, it doesn't uncrack. A few days later, I found him in the backyard. Shirt off. Fixing a busted pipe near the pool. Sweat on his neck. Tattoos I hadn't seen before. I froze in the doorway, watching. Too long. He turned. Caught me. Didn't speak. Just held my gaze until I looked away first. That night, I dreamed of him. Of water. Of heat. Of hands. I woke up sweating. Shaking. Wrong, I whispered to myself. This is wrong. But the next day, I waited in the kitchen longer than I needed to. Just in case he passed through. He didn't. And I hated the ache that followed. It wasn't love. Not yet. It was curiosity. Obsession. Hunger. But it was growing. Quietly. Relentlessly. Like ivy climbing a wall. We didn't talk for days. But the silence grew louder. Each time we passed each other, something unspoken pulled tight between us. A wire. A current. I could feel it humming in my bones. The first time he touched me, it wasn't even a touch. He brushed past me in the hallway. My hand grazed his forearm. That's all. But it was enough to send a spark straight through my spine. He didn't stop. Didn't look back. And yet I stood there for a full minute, breathless, trembling. It wasn't normal. It wasn't safe. But it felt inevitable. I told myself he didn't want me. That it was one-sided. A silly fantasy I had built in a moment of boredom. Then I found a sketchbook. Tucked under a pile of old mail in the guest room he sometimes stayed in. Inside, he had drawn me. Not once. But many times. Sleeping. Laughing. Looking away. Always from memory. My robe. My eyes. My lips parted slightly. Not in a way that was vulgar. No. In a way that was intimate. Like he had memorized me when I wasn't looking. I should have been furious. Ashamed. Scared. But instead, I pressed my fingers to one of the pages. Traced the lines. And whispered his name. Some things don't need to be said out loud to be real. Some desires live in silence. And silence is where we started. He started avoiding me. After I found the sketchbook, he vanished. No messages. No passing glances. No footsteps down the hall at midnight. Like he'd buried whatever it was we hadn't spoken of. Like he was trying to kill it before it grew teeth. But it was too late. I had already changed. Something had been awakened. Not just lust. Not just danger. It was attention. And when you've been invisible for too long, attention feels like salvation. Even if it's poisoned. Especially when it's poisoned. I should have burned that sketchbook. Instead, I kept it under my pillow. And sometimes, at night, I'd flip through those quiet images of myself, my body, my face, drawn through his eyes, and pretend it meant something. Pretend I was worth looking at like that. It was sick. I knew that. But it felt real in a way my marriage never had. One evening, when the house was silent and my husband was away on yet another 3-day trip, I walked outside barefoot, glass of wine in hand. The sky was heavy. Pregnant with rain. I didn't hear Ethan come up behind me. Didn't sense him until his voice cracked the quiet. You shouldn't have seen those. I turned, and there he was. Sweat-damp shirt clinging to him. Jaw tense. Eyes darker than usual. I tried to answer, but nothing came out. Only breath. I wasn't trying to be creepy, he said. It helps me think. Drawing. I nodded, though I didn't believe that was all. I liked them, I whispered. His eyes met mine. And in that moment, the lie between us died. We both knew what this was. We just hadn't admitted it yet. You're married, he said. To your father, I added. Silence. Long punishing. Then, softer, but you're not happy. I flinched. Because it was true. And because it was the first time anyone had said it out loud. I'm trying to be, I said. He stepped closer. Close enough that I could smell the rain on his skin. You shouldn't have to try, he said. My breath caught. I stepped back. Just once. He didn't follow. But he didn't walk away either. That night, I locked my bedroom door for the first time. Not because I was afraid of him. But because I was afraid of myself. I dreamed again. This time, it was worse. Hands underwater. A kiss against glass. A name whispered so softly it hurt. His name. When I woke, I cried. Because I knew something had changed. Irreversibly. I was already cheating, and I hadn't even touched him. It wasn't the sex. It wasn't the fantasy. It was the wanting. The desperate, bone-deep wanting that wrapped itself around my spine and refused to let go. The next day, I told myself I'd leave the house. Go anywhere. Do anything. Instead, I walked to the guest room. His sketchbook was gone. But his scent still lingered. A mix of cedarwood and sweat. I sat on the edge of the bed, legs trembling, heart begging for a reason to stay clean. And then I heard the door behind me click open. I didn't turn. I didn't have to. I could feel him. The air shifted. Slow footsteps. The creak of floorboards. Then his voice, low and wrecked. I think about you. All the time. I turned. He stood in the doorway, fists clenched. I shouldn't, he said. You can't, I whispered. We stared at each other like two people dangling off the same cliff, waiting to see who'd let go first. He stepped inside. Shut the door behind him. And then, nothing. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. We just stood there, breathing the same thick air, hearts beating in sync. I don't know how long we stayed like that. 5 seconds. 5 years. Then he said, I won't do this unless you ask me. I blinked. What? I won't cross that line. Not unless you tell me to. I should have said no. I should have run. But instead, I whispered. Stay. And that one word shattered everything. He crossed the room in 3 steps. Hands at my waist. Mouth just inches from mine. But he didn't kiss me. He just held me there. Foreheads touching. Breathing together. I hate this, he said. I know, I breathed. And then he kissed me. Not hard. Not rushed. Just real. Real in a way that made my knees give out. That kiss didn't taste like victory. It tasted like surrender. We didn't go further that night. Not physically. But something far worse happened. We opened the door. And once it's open, it never closes again. The next morning, I couldn't look my husband in the eye. He told me he loved me, as he always did. And I said it back. But the words felt foreign now. Like they belonged to someone else. Someone innocent. Someone who hadn't already crossed over to the other side. The worst part? I didn't even feel guilty. Not yet. That would come later. Much later. When the lies became too many. And the secrets, too heavy. But for now? All I felt was alive. Desire is never quiet. It screams in the spaces between what we say and what we want. And now, it was screaming louder than ever. He started leaving the door open. His bedroom. His glances. His silences. Like he wanted me to see him. To remember what we had done. Even though we hadn't done everything, not yet. But the way he looked at me across the dining table? That was undressing. The way he lingered behind when his father left the room? That was touching. The way he whispered my name when he thought I was asleep? That was worse than sex. Because it was emotional. And emotional is where sin gets sharp. My husband, John, didn't notice. He was too busy playing the part of the generous older man. The provider. The lover. Too proud to see the rot beneath the walls of his perfect life. He'd wrap his arms around me at dinner. Kiss my temple. Call me darling in front of Ethan. And I'd smile. But inside? I felt like a woman burning alive behind glass. Ethan never spoke a word about that night again. But his presence changed. He'd walk past me and brush his fingers down my back. Quick. Cruel. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was watching me unravel. And the worst part? So was I. I stopped dressing the same. Silks instead of cotton. Bare feet instead of heels. Soft lipstick, just enough to feel noticed. I told myself it was for me. But we both knew who it was for. One night, the three of us were watching a movie. John had fallen asleep on the couch beside me, his head resting on my thigh. Ethan sat on the armrest, sipping whiskey. Silent. I was too aware of everything. The heat of his eyes on my legs. The way my fingers were trembling. The way John's breath warmed my skin. While my mind was somewhere else entirely. Halfway through the film, Ethan stood up. "I'm going to bed," he said. He didn't look at me. But as he passed behind the couch, he let his hand fall. Just for a moment. On my shoulder. A barely there touch. Soft. Possessive. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. When John finally stirred and looked up at me with sleepy eyes, I kissed him. To cover the shame. To remind myself what fidelity was supposed to feel like. But all I tasted was guilt. And whiskey. The next day, I told Ethan we had to stop. That whatever was building between us had to die now, before it destroyed us all. He didn't argue. He just looked at me and said, "Then stop looking at me like that." "Like what?" I asked, weak. "Like you want me to save you from your own life." I laughed. It came out cracked. "I don't want saving," I whispered. He leaned in. "Then why are you drowning?" The air shifted. A storm was coming. Not outside. Not yet. Inside. That night, my husband came home drunk. Not just tipsy. Drunk. He slammed a glass down. Accused me of being cold. Asked if I was bored already. "If you wanted a boy toy, you should have said so," he slurred. I froze. He didn't look at me when he said it. But he didn't have to. Because for a second, I swore he knew. I slept in the guest room. Alone. Or so I thought. Until I heard the knock on the door. 3 soft taps. I opened it. And there he was. Ethan. Shirtless. Eyes tired. He didn't come in. Just stood there in the dark hallway, staring at me like I was already his. I heard what he said, he murmured. I stepped back. He stepped forward. "You're not cold. You're just, in the wrong story." I wanted to scream. To cry. To run. Instead, I let him touch my face. A single finger. "I'm not trying to ruin you," he whispered. "I think you already have," I said. And then? We kissed. Again. But this time, slower. No panic. No guilt. Just inevitability. His hands cradled my face. Mine clutched his chest. We didn't undress. We didn't even lie down. But the way he held me. It wasn't lust anymore. It was something much worse. It was comfort. And comfort is where danger hides best. I fell asleep in his arms, still clothed. Still shaking. When I woke, he was gone. But something of him had stayed. Not a scent. Not a touch. A knowing. A line had been crossed. Not just physically. But, emotionally. Spiritually. The next morning, John made me breakfast. As if nothing had happened. As if his words the night before had vanished. "I was a mess last night," he said, kissing my cheek. "Sorry, love." I smiled. Tasted metal. Everything was fine. Everything was fine. But that afternoon, when I went to put laundry away, I found something tucked behind Ethan's sketchbook. A photograph. Old. Faded. A young woman. Blonde. Beautiful. Eyes like mine. And next to her, a man. Not John. Younger. Dark-haired. Ethan. The woman had her arm around him. But it wasn't motherly. It was intimate. A girlfriend? No. Too old. A teacher? No. The date on the back, 2015. The note in cursive, "You always fall for women who look like her." I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. Then, I tucked it back where I found it. My hands were cold. My heart colder. Who was that woman? Why did she look like me? Why did Ethan keep this? And what did it mean that I recognized her? Some obsessions don't start with love. They start with resemblance. And what I feared most now was that I was just a shadow. A replacement. For someone else he couldn't forget. I stopped touching him after that photo. Didn't answer his texts. Didn't glance his way at dinner. Didn't let his fingers graze mine under the table. I told myself it was over. But it never really is it? You don't kill a sin like that. You bury it. Feed it silence. And hope it never claws its way back. But Ethan wasn't letting go. Not this time. 3 days after I found the photo, I came home to find him waiting. Not in his room. Not in the kitchen. In mine. Sitting on the edge of my bed, holding a glass of scotch like it was his. "I knocked," he said, not looking at me. "You didn't answer. You can't be here. You've said that before." He stood. Took a step forward. I didn't move. Couldn't. "I know what you found," he said quietly. I blinked. "I was going to tell you. But I thought, maybe if we stopped, you'd never need to know." I swallowed the dryness in my throat. "Who is she?" He took a breath. His jaw twitched. "My mother." I froze. He pulled the photo from his back pocket. The same one. Worn edges. That handwriting. "She died when I was 17, he said. "Accident. Or maybe not." I never got the full story. She was complicated. I took a step back. "But she looks." "I know. Like you." "And the handwriting?" "His." "My father's." I blinked. "What?" Ethan's voice went flat. "I found it in his drawer after she died. A photo of her. His note. Like a sick little confession. You always fall for women who look like her." I sat down. "Hard. He was in love with your mother?" I whispered. Ethan nodded. 4 years. Before she met my real father. After, too. They had some kind of history. My stomach twisted. "And now?" He smiled. But it didn't reach his eyes. "Now he's married to her ghost." The room went silent. Outside, a wind picked up. "You think he married me because I look like her?" I asked. He didn't answer. But he didn't have to. It explained the way John had first stared at me. Like he already knew me. The way he rushed the wedding. The way he never really listened, only watched. I had thought it was love. But now? Maybe it was memory. "He used to draw her," Ethan said. "Just like I draw you." That word, "used to," hit hard. Because it meant more than nostalgia. It meant pattern. "So I'm just another version of her," I said. "Another ghost." Ethan walked toward me. "No. You're not her. You're not anyone but you. And that's the problem." I looked up. His eyes were on fire. "I've tried to forget," he whispered. "To let it go. To keep this clean. He stopped. But you're in my skin now. And I don't know how to get you out. My heart cracked. Because I felt it too. This wasn't fantasy anymore. It was addiction. I don't want to hurt him, I said. I don't think you can avoid that. We stood there in the half-light, two people drowning in someone else's history. I should have told him to leave. Instead, I kissed him. And this time, we didn't stop. We fell into bed like two people giving up. And when he touched me, it wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Like he was trying to rewrite every wrong thing with his hands. There was no silence between us that night. Only sound. Breath. Skin. The illusion of love, layered over betrayal. And for a moment, it felt like freedom. But the moment never lasts. Because as dawn bled through the windows, I heard it. A sound no woman in my position should ever hear. Footsteps. Outside the door. I shot up, heart pounding, blood crashing. Ethan sat up too, still breathless. We held our breath. The footsteps stopped. Then, the soft creak of wood as they turned and walked away. He was awake. He had heard. Or worse, he had seen. We dressed in silence. Ethan slipped out the window. And I lay there, shaking, waiting for a door to slam or a scream to rip the air. But none came. Just silence. And guilt. So much guilt. I went down to the kitchen an hour later. John was already there. Drinking coffee. Reading the paper. When he looked up, I flinched. But his face was calm. Too calm. Morning, he said. I nodded. He poured me a cup. I waited for the accusation. But it never came. Instead, he folded his paper and said, "You ever feel like you've been here before?" I blinked. What? In this moment. This kitchen. This exact breath. He smiled, but it was hollow. Déjà vu. I couldn't speak. Then he stood. Walked over. Kissed the top of my head. I'll be out late tonight. Dinner with a client. And then he left. Just like that. No questions. No anger. But his silence felt like a scream. That night, I checked the drawer in his study. The one Ethan had mentioned. And there it was. The photo. Another copy. Same handwriting. Same date. But this one had something extra. A name. Elaine. My stomach dropped. Because I knew that name. Not from stories. Not from Ethan. But from my own mother. She'd had a friend once. A best friend. Beautiful. Tragic. Lost in an accident years ago. I had seen the photos as a child. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. The same eyes I saw in the mirror. Elaine was my mother's best friend. Which meant. My hands began to shake. I picked up the phone. Called my aunt. She answered groggily. It's late. What's wrong? I swallowed. Aunt May, do you remember a woman named Elaine? Silence. Then. Oh honey. Of course. Your mom's closest friend. Why? I forced the words out. Was she ever with John? A pause. And then. God no. He wanted her, sure. Chased her for years. She didn't want him back. I sat down. Hard. And, did she have a son? Another silence. Then the words that shattered everything. She did. But he wasn't John's. She made that very clear. I closed my eyes. The twist had arrived. But it wasn't what I feared. It was worse. Because if Elaine wasn't Ethan's mother, then who was? And what was this man really doing in our house? Some lies feel safer than the truth. Until you realize you don't know who's lying anymore. Not him. Not you. Not even yourself. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every possibility spun through my head like a storm I couldn't stop. Elaine wasn't Ethan's mother. But he said she was. Or believed she was. So, he lied. Or someone lied to him. And suddenly, it all made sense. The obsession. The art. The way he watched me like I belonged to him before I ever touched him. It wasn't just lust. It was inheritance. A twisted legacy passed down through secrets and silence. I waited until morning to confront him. He was in the garage, shirtless, fixing a motorbike that hadn't run in years. When he saw me, he didn't smile. Just wiped his hands and looked at me like he knew why I was there. You lied to me. His jaw clenched. No. I told you what I knew. Elaine wasn't your mother. His eyes darkened. What? She was my mother's best friend. She never had a child with John. She rejected him. His breath caught. And then, something flickered across his face. Not confusion. Recognition. Like I'd said something he almost expected. I stepped closer. Who was your real mother, Ethan? He looked down at his hands. I don't know. Don't lie to me again. I'm not. His voice was low. Shaky. I was adopted. At 3 months. All I had was that photo. My adoptive parents died when I was 12. I found it in a box in their attic, along with a letter. No name. Just a warning. A warning? He nodded. Said to never go looking. That whoever left me did it to protect me. That love, he swallowed, wasn't always safe. I sat on the edge of a nearby bench. Everything felt heavy. Like the air itself was sinking. So how did you find John? I didn't, he said. He found me. What? I was 19. Studying art. One day he showed up at a gallery where I had a piece displayed. Said he saw something familiar in my work. He offered to mentor me. I thought, maybe he knew something about my mother. I started digging. Found the photo in his drawer. Same woman. Same eyes. He paused. I connected the dots. Thought I was his son. Thought I finally understood why I was so broken. I felt my heart in my throat. And now? He looked at me. I don't know who I am. That made 2 of us. But I know I didn't come here by accident, he said. I think you were brought here, I said quietly. And we both knew who brought him. John. A man who collected women who looked like ghosts. A man who brought a boy into his house, a boy he possibly knew wasn't his, but wanted close. For what? Control? Redemption? Punishment? I think he knew you weren't his son, I whispered. But he needed you to believe it. Ethan's hands curled into fists. Why? I didn't have an answer. But I had a theory. A cold, nauseating one. What if he wanted to punish her? I said. Elaine. For choosing someone else. For rejecting him. What if you were her son, but not his? Ethan turned pale. And he raised me, he muttered. Fed me lies. Built me into something he could use. I nodded slowly. To ruin the one thing he couldn't control. Ethan looked at me. You. I nodded again. And then the realization hit him, too. It wasn't love that brought me into this house. It was revenge. Layered in charm. Disguised as chance. Perfected with time. He married me because I reminded him of the woman he lost. He brought Ethan back to destroy the woman I was becoming. And we played into it. We sinned. We broke. We gave him the ending he always wanted. I felt sick. He was always watching, Ethan whispered. Even when he wasn't in the room. Then he knows. Ethan looked up. No. Not everything. What do you mean? He stood. Walked to the drawer of tools. Pulled out a small, velvet box. Opened it. Inside, a flash drive. I found this last month. Hidden in the old desk in the attic. I thought it was just files. Sketches. But it's more. I took it, my fingers trembling. More what? Emails. Voice memos. Photos. Conversations he recorded. Notes. About me. About you. About Elaine. I looked at him, horrified. He's been planning this for years. Ethan nodded. I think we're part of a story he started writing before we were even born. And now, we were near the final chapter. What's on the voice memos? He looked at me. You'll want to hear them alone. I didn't wait. I ran upstairs. Locked the door. Plugged in the drive. And pressed play. John's voice crackled through the speaker. Measured. Cold. Almost rehearsed. June 3rd, target secured. She said yes to dinner. Reminds me of Elaine. Same eyes. Same smile. Maybe I'll get it right this time. My blood froze. Another file. August 15th. She thinks she chose me. How sweet. I think I'll propose next month. She won't say no. None of them ever do. I felt the bile rise. Click. January 5th. The boy's finally home. He doesn't know what he is yet. I'll shape him. Let them orbit each other like planets. They'll collide. It's inevitable. That's how I wrote it. Click. March 12th. She touched his arm today. It begins. Click. And then, the last one. April 25th. She's breaking. I can see it. But she still thinks she has control. She doesn't know the final twist. Not yet. But she will. Soon. That was last week. My hand shook as I closed the files. He had played us. Used every part of our past to weave this nightmare. And it wasn't over. Because he was still writing. Still watching. And the final twist? I had no idea what it was. But I knew it was coming. Some sins are accidents. Others are orchestras. Conducted. Timed. Perfected. And the worst part is, when you realize you're the finale. I woke up gasping. It wasn't a nightmare. It was worse. It was memory. That voice. Those recordings. John's cold, mechanical tone, like he wasn't even talking about people. Just pieces on a board. And we danced like fools in his game. I didn't tell Ethan. Not right away. I couldn't. He still clung to the idea that he had agency. That we had made our own mistakes. But now, I knew the truth. Even our sin had been scripted. By him. John returned the next day. Suit freshly pressed. Smile lazy. As if he didn't know the world had tilted while he was gone. I watched him from the stairs. The man I married. My husband. My captor. He looked up and saw me. Gave a nod. Morning, darling. My stomach turned. I followed him into the study. He poured himself a drink, even though it was barely noon. As if sensing the tension, he paused. Looked at me over the glass. You look pale. I said nothing. He sipped. I suppose you've been talking to Ethan. I nodded. And? My hands trembled, but I steadied them. Who is he, John? He smirked. My son. As far as the law is concerned. But not by blood. No. Then why? Because he's the only thing I could steal from her. I flinched. Elaine? He nodded. She left me. Married some artist. Ran off to Italy. Had a baby. I swore I'd never forgive her. I stared at him, horrified. You took her son? I saved him. His tone was clipped. Do you know where he was when I found him? Starving. Neglected. Her husband had died. She was drinking. Sleeping with anyone who reminded her of the man she left me for. I pulled Ethan from that filth. Gave him a life. And raised him to believe you were his father. He smiled thinly. Poetic, isn't it? You made him fall in love with me. No, he said. I just let nature run its course. He leaned in. You're the one who crossed the line. My breath hitched. You wanted this to happen. He raised his glass. And it did. I wanted to scream. Instead, I whispered, what's the final twist, John? He paused. That damn smile again. You'll see. That night, I packed a bag. I left Ethan a note. Don't follow me. Don't try to fix this. Burn the drive. Forget me. Save yourself. I couldn't face him. Not after everything. Not now that I knew we were bred to break each other. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor. Because as I crept down the stairs, he was there. Waiting. He held the note. Eyes glassy. You weren't going to say goodbye? My voice cracked. It's better this way. For who? For you. He stepped forward. I don't care what he did. I don't care where I came from. The only thing real in this whole damn house was you. No, I choked. I was just another one of his ghosts. He shook his head. You were the first thing that made me feel. The first thing I ever wanted just because I wanted it, not because he planted it in me. I looked away. If we stay, we become him. Silence. Then let's leave. What? Let's go. Now. Before he writes the ending. I stared at him. And for a second, I believed it was possible. That we could outrun the damage. But we were too late. The front door creaked. And John stepped inside. Holding a gun. I froze. Ethan stood in front of me instinctively. John's face was unreadable. You were going to run, he said softly. No one answered. He stepped forward. Calm. Calculated. Do you know what I hate most about betrayal? He asked. Ethan didn't move. John smiled. It proves I loved you. He raised the gun. I pushed Ethan aside. The shot rang out. It wasn't me. Ethan crumpled to the floor. Blood blooming through his shirt. No. I dropped beside him. Screamed. Held his face in my hands. He blinked at me, dazed. Still, love you. I sobbed. John just stood there. Watching. Silent. Then, a sound behind us. A siren. Lights. Someone had called. Maybe a neighbor. Maybe God. John dropped the gun and raised his hands. Smiling. Always smiling. The hospital was too white. Too quiet. They let me see him. Ethan. He was pale. Hooked to machines. The bullet missed his heart. But not by much. He'll live, the doctor said. I nodded. Numb. John was arrested. Charged with attempted murder. Manipulation. God knows what else. He pled insanity. Of course he did. And maybe he was right. Maybe the entire story was madness. I visited Ethan once more before they moved him. He looked at me, weak. I wanted to save you, he whispered. I pressed my forehead to his. You did. But we can't be. I nodded. No. We can't. And for the first time, I told the truth. I loved you. I still do. But I won't destroy you. I won't become him. He closed his eyes. Tears slid down his temples. So did mine. We said goodbye in silence. And I left. Changed my name. Moved to a coastal town where no one knew me. I stopped painting. Stopped loving. Just existed. Because that's all I could do. The fire we set burned too deep. And some ash never leaves your hands. He shot the only thing I ever loved. But in doing so, he set us free. And sometimes, freedom means walking away from the one person who would have died for you. They say guilt fades. It doesn't. It changes shape. Becomes quieter. But it stays. I live by the sea now. No one here knows who I am. They call me Claire. I let them. I rent a small apartment above a bookstore. The owner is kind. She talks too much. I don't mind. Sometimes I pretend I'm normal. That I'm just another woman with a past, not a graveyard in her chest. I don't paint anymore. But I still keep a brush in my drawer. Like a relic. Or a warning. Some nights, I write letters I'll never send. This is one of them. Dear Ethan. I still dream of your voice. The way you said my name like it tasted of warmth and ruin. I wonder what you became after. Did you find peace? Did you hate me? I wouldn't blame you. Sometimes I tell myself it wasn't love. Just trauma. Lust. A shared prison. But I'm lying. I loved you. Not like a mother. Not like a wife cheats her husband. I loved you like a mirror loves light. Like a dying woman loves the only breath she has left. I wonder if you ever forgave me. I wonder if you remember my hands. I remember yours. How they shook that night. Not from fear. But from grief. We lost everything. And still, I would have done it again. If only for one more hour. One more touch. One more sin in the dark before the morning broke us open. I don't expect heaven. I stopped believing in it the day he pulled the trigger. But if there's a place after this, where shame is quiet, and pain has no teeth, I hope I find you there. Love. M. Sometimes, I see couples on the pier. Older ones. She adjusts his scarf. He carries her bag. They bicker over tea. Simple. Gentle. Uncomplicated. It used to make me envious. Now. I feel nothing. Not because I don't want that. But because I know I can never have it. Love, for people like me, is radioactive. Beautiful, but it burns through everything. So I let it stay buried. Like everything else. But there's one thing I still do. Every month, I walk to the post office and check box 112. It's under his name. Ethan M. He doesn't know I rent it. He never sends anything. Still. I check. I don't know what I'm waiting for. Maybe a sign. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe the end. It hasn't come. Not yet. If you're still listening. If you've made it to the end of this story. Then maybe, just maybe. You understand. Not justify. Not excuse. But understand. That's all I ever wanted. Not to be loved. Not to be absolved. Just to be seen. Not as a monster. Not as a lover. But as a woman who fell hard and never climbed back up. Because some sins aren't punished. They're lived with. Every single day. Bleak bite. If this story left you breathless, conflicted, or even speechless, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment. Tell me what hurt the most. Or what you'd never admit out loud. And if there's a forbidden story still living in your head, one the world isn't ready to hear, drop it below. Suggest the next tale we should bleed onto the screen. Because here, we don't fear the dark. We bite into it. Subscribe. Like. Stay. More is coming. Worse is coming. And some stories will make this one feel gentle. Until then, don't trust the quiet. It's where secrets hide.